I'm super excited that you were able to join me. Why don't we get started by just having you tell the audience a little bit about who you are, and yeah, just like your experience with traveling in Europe.
Cool. Thanks for having me, Angela. My first time on live. Good morning from New York. My name is Smith Gardner, and I am an amateur European traveler. I'm an interior designer based in New York, and it's been fun to sort of live vicariously through you now that you are in Europe full time in Frankfurt. I've always got an excuse and a reason and someone to bounce ideas off of. And that has helped my travel journey and the way and frequency that I travel to Europe. Like most people, first time I went to Europe, I was in high school on like a school trip. Went to Paris, saw all the big sights, had bad food, went, up early. I snuck off and smoked cigarettes in the lobby of our hotel in like the 16th arrondissement,
But this
and
was
felt like a
what your
true
first trip was, like a
Parisian.
true like backpacker trip, right?
No, this was like a high school, like
Oh,
educational, like
okay. So
school
you've been
sanctioned
okay. Okay,
trip.
I'm getting ahead of you. Yeah.
No, 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 it's all good. And then followed that up with like a classic backpacker with a literal backpack with three of my buddies right after I graduated college. And we hit all the stag do favorites. We were in
Prague.
Prague, we were in
Yeah.
Amsterdam, yeah, Budapest, Croatia, Interlaken, all the following the like trail of like the best hostels of Europe or something.
Hmm.
And then like as I became an adult, it started with kind of building towards like this one special, like if you could find time and save some money and grab a really cheap flight, trying to do a trip, once every few years and really casting as wide of a net as you could and kind of trying to see as much as you could. And then, as you get older and your situation changes, like you're able to go a little more frequently. I live in New York now, and previously I was in the South, and so being in New York, you do have access to a ton of direct flights. So it makes it easier to go more frequently. I'm an interior designer, and there's a fair amount of trade shows and work product and vendors and resources in Europe that I use and have used for clients. And so that's you're able to extend trips or build them into a
Which you're a
work.
pro at. You're so good at that.
Yes, I'm legendary at turning adding mini trips onto trips, is something I'm known for. So it's been cool. It's like I love it. It traveling to Europe, I love it. It really recharges me. I love it's so inspiring for me professionally and personally. And the other cool thing is like I I think I'm really open-minded in terms of where to go and what to see and what types of trips. I've done solo trip or solo mini trips. I've done backpacking trips. I've done group trips. You know, I've done a giant family trip with,
Hmm.
in a villa. I've done one-on-one with my SO, significant other, my husband, and, all versions. And it's just been fun to sort of hone that skill. And I'm happy to talk about it today.
Okay, so you talked about a ton of stuff in there that I want to unpack. First of all, you mentioned this like era that you had right after kind of the college backpacking trips where you were just kind of like early in your career finding a deal and kind of building these trips based off of just timing and affordable airfare. And this is where I actually owe you a debt of gratitude because I kind of joined I third wheeled on a trip with
I
you.
remember. Yep.
And this was the kind of the Christmas market trip that just
I
like
think
was so
I
eye
think we were
opening.
at the I think we were at the Rare Bit in Charleston.
We were having like I don't know, I think it was like Saturday afternoon cocktails at the Rare Bit, which is something I never
Is
do
that
now
still
that
there?
I have no idea. That's every time I see like influencers talk about Charleston, I have two reactions. My first is like, ugh, these girls talking about Charleston, but like I have not been there in years. And then I see all of these new restaurants, and I'm like, what? What is that? But yeah, we were sitting at the Rare Bit, and you were like, I just found this amazing airfare to Europe. We leave Thanksgiving night, and we fly to Istanbul, and then Berlin, and I mean, and this was way back before like the going to Istanbul kind of hair replacement joke was even a thing,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
we did that 10-day trip, and then yeah, we've just like kind of been really good friends ever since. We share a ton of like memes. I think we're like the last two people standing on Twitter from our friend group. So like
That's true.
um
Yeah.
yeah, and then I guess the what we're kind of here to talk about today is that in 2022 we decided to do this like post-COVID ski trip, and we went to Cortina d'Ampezzo, which I feel like has finally broken through. Like after 5 years of just endless trend stories about the Dolomites,
Yeah.
from what I have seen of it this summer, like it has just completely blown up. So
And we'll
yeah,
continue straight into hosting
the
the Olympics
Olympics.
in
Yeah,
2026 in
yeah.
February. Wow, it's coming up. So yeah,
There
that
was.
was great. I
Go ahead.
no, I just that I love that coming out of COVID, we you were in Europe the entire time. I was in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fun to the ski trip thing really started because it was a time of year that was otherwise, unless you're planning a winter holiday, a pretty like doldrums time of year in terms of
Oh yeah,
the
absolutely.
calendar. January, you've got the like hangover of the holidays, and then before you kind of really get into kind of the ramping up of spring. And even the ski season itself has sort of a dip because February and even early March are really
Mm-hmm.
considered like prime skiing. Um, so it was like this great, it was this great, I'm not going to say excuse, but like sort of a framework to build, what was ultimately just like, let's hang out since we made it through this pandemic and like catch up. And the other thing was that I'm trying to think back on kind of the discussions that we had there,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of what informed that. But I'd always like, I am, as being an interior designer, like I've got plenty of like Slim Aaron's coffee table books, and like I know all about the like jet set at
This
Lek
was
and
huge for me. Yeah.
and Cortina and Samoritz, and like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so part of me and my husband had actually done a trip in the spring through the Dolomites and just talked about how beautiful it was. I mean, I didn't need really convincing on that, but I wanted to check out Cortina. I also was able to kind of leverage with you've got a couple of different big airports with Venice and Milan both nearby. So and it was sort of a ski trip, but it was also like a part of Europe I had wanted to go to and hadn't
Yeah.
spent much time in. So it really was like a twofer in that regard. Um,
So
and
if memory serves about that trip, obviously the New York Times had been doing a ton of trend stories about the Dolomites. They had that really fantastic piece about like hut to hut skiing in the Dolomites. So there was a ton.
that's
It
right.
was just like it was being talked about for sure in like the early 2000s, which look at like 2025 me using that term. But there was that. Obviously, we were looking for something like chic, but not break the bank expensive. And I still think that Cortina hits that note perfectly. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about it a little bit and see if we can actually figure out where we're going to go this year. But like, Smith and I, every year, our text chain starts with like, oh my gosh, Swiss resort number 1, Swiss resort number 2. And like by the end of it, reality sets in and we're like, well, let's go to like an relatively affordable place. But the other thing that I think maybe influenced it a little bit was, I can't remember if you added this after we picked the destination, but you really wanted to go to Fortuny in Venice. And so the proximity there was another part of the trip.
That's right. Yeah. And Fortuny is this legendary Venetian fabric house, fabric manufacturer, making just these iconic damask patterned fabrics that are used today, used throughout, in both Venetian like decorative history, but also, obviously in current applications. So they have their factory in Venice, on what's the name of the island? I'm not
Is
going to think of
it
it now. It's not.
Giudecca? Giudecca?
No. Yeah, it is Giudecca. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Giudecca,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it is Giudecca. Um, and so we're able to arrange a factory tour, kind of visit there, which is really nice. And also, again, and this is this was specific to me, but it was something that, I mean, you came along and I think it was probably a really
It was
cool
so
experience
cool.
for
Yeah.
someone that, isn't a member of the trade, but, um, it added a layer to the trip in that it was, a work trip also,
Hmm.
in addition to some leisure time there, um, and added just kind of a layer of meaning and purpose,
Yeah.
that was awesome. But you know, the skiing in Cortina was definitely the draw. We I completely agree with you. I think there were so many things that I remember that trip just being, I mean, you know, think about this. This is truly 3 years ago. So,
Yeah.
the, comparing apples to oranges in terms of like exact dollar amounts now. But I remember that trip being extremely affordable. Um,
It
and
was.
certainly
Yeah.
for, how luxe we felt, just like slamming Negronis on like a velvet sofa in this
Okay.
hotel lobby.
Yeah, so we have to talk about why that trip was kind of affordable for us because, I've been promoting this live stream on like Instagram and I'm sure everybody is like, girl, it is not even autumn. Like the pumpkin spice lattes are not even on the shelves yet. And she is talking about
Right.
skiing in Europe. So the reason to do that is obviously this has happened to us so many times when we try to like pick a ski destination. You always
Yeah.
say that. You always say that in September, like it's too early to start planning our ski trip, right? And then before you know it, it is the week before Christmas and you're like, "Holy shit, I want to go somewhere, but we don't have
Yeah.
anything like booked." And then you take a look, everything is so expensive and all of a sudden the plans that you had, it's like it's not happening this year. So that trip, what we did, which I think was actually I know we felt kind of silly about it, but it was absolutely a pro move, was we booked our hotels. We found this incredibly charming hotel that Ernest Hemingway had stayed at, the
Oh, I didn't
Post
realize
House.
that.
Yeah, they have like a suite named after
Okay,
Hemingway. But
cool. I can
we
totally
stayed,
see it.
yeah, we stayed at the Post House in Cortina, but we booked our hotel rooms. It must have been like late September or early October. Another one of my like travel kind of, I hate the word travel hack, but like tip is that you can stay at some really chic hotels that have singles. And this is what we did. Each of us got like one of these
Yes.
smaller single twin sized bed hotel rooms. And then we proceeded to not think about that ski trip until the week before. I think it was like the day before New Year's, we were like, are we still going to do that? Like, do you have a flight? I did not have a flight until I think after New Year's. So that was a mid-January trip. I didn't book my Frankfurt to Venice trip until I got back to Frankfurt. So that's why I think when it comes to like planning a ski trip, the accommodations piece, like picking where you're going and then booking your accommodations, if you can get that done before Halloween and that
And I
like
will say,
conveyor
I will
belt of
jump
the
in there
holidays, yeah.
I will jump in and say I had gotten a flight, or at least one half of like my red eye flight, like my
Okay.
flight going to Europe,
Because you flew into Milan.
because I flew
Yeah.
into Milan.
Hey,
I was
I'm
actually
sorry.
using
I have to interrupt you. Can you just tell the people who you saw on your flight?
yeah. Machine Gun Kelly and Megan Fox were on my flight. They had literally before boarding, before we like pulled away from the gate in New York, sent out their like announced their engagement to the world.
On that
As
flight.
they were
Delta
boarding the
flight
plane.
like 106. That's
Yes,
amazing.
they were headed. This was in January, so like I think MGK was walking in a menswear show in
Oh,
Milan,
okay.
because
Did they
the
ever get
Milan,
married?
I think so. I don't know. I'm
Okay.
not, listen, they were lovely. I told them congratulations, and they were very, they were very kind in receiving my uh receiving my wishes. Um but I will say to I, given that, you know, obviously getting from Frankfurt to Venice is a different lift than getting from the US. And so I went ahead and snagged my at least my flight there. I was using a Delta global upgrade that I had to use by a certain time. So I went ahead and grabbed that. Um, and I would say, especially for Americans going to Europe, I would say, to your point, it seems like hotel, like as we've seen, like the hotels, the good ones fill up fast. Like
Yeah.
European families know well in advance that this is something they want to do. Um, and but I like to grab the flight too, and then I also sort of put that on my back pocket as well. So I would throw the flight in there too, but I also am very particular about how I fly and what airline and what seat and stuff.
Seat
So
arrangements. Yeah.
yeah,
we can
so
we can
that
talk
if
about
you're
that.
less sensitive to that, like given the frequency now, I mean, there's just, I feel like every couple months you're seeing a new route being launched by,
Yeah.
an airline. So there are more flight options nowadays than ever. Um, and more hubs, more, ways to connect. So you can usually always grab a deal. It might not be like the best, your perfect seat configuration, but there's usually it's rare that there's going to sell out in
Let's talk
in
about the
winter.
best routes because when we did, let's assume most of our viewers are kind of in the US. Let's say maybe they are East Coasters, because I think for East Coasters, this is where the difference between do I ski out west in the States or do I go to Europe? Like, this is kind of perfect for them.
Absolutely. So when we started this in Cortina, it was a chance to hang out. I was itching to travel internationally because we had been on lockdown.
Pandemic,
So,
yeah.
so I was like, yeah, no, I will literally go, anywhere in Europe. And but the ski trip was kind of the excuse. And then we did it and we were like, this is fantastic. This is such
Hmm.
a cultural experience. This is such, this added like a different layer of sort of lifestyle and sort of meaning, and not to get too woo woo about it. It felt like a deeper dive,
Yeah.
because
Then
it
a
was
city
such
trip,
a,
right?
yeah, then yeah. And we did both. We had Venice, like we did museums,
Yeah, yeah,
like which I
yeah,
love,
exactly.
like, but it was this wonderful kind of balance. But at that point, you're right, like the especially once the ski trip became something we loved doing, and then we kind of brought along extras, and what really made it into an annual thing. At this point now, if you're on the East Coast and you're thinking about skiing on the West Coast of the United States, I mean, that flight to Salt Lake City, that flight to Aspen, that flight to Jackson Hole, that flight to Big Sky in Montana is very well could be more expensive than, you know, connecting to get to Munich or flying into Milan in
Yeah.
dead of winter. Um, in many cases, it will be more expensive if you're doing a big um, apologies to my dog
It's fine.
who's piping up, who's
Henley wants the
got
attention.
got some opinions about. I guess he's a West Coast powder guy. I never pegged him as such. Hey, buddy. You're okay. Uh,
Okay, so you alluded to the fact that we have continued the tradition, and I definitely want to
yes.
talk about this idea of like travel rituals. We're going to talk about that later, but let's talk about airfare routes because as we continued doing ski trips, we kind of expanded it. It was no longer just Smith and I traveling. It became this thing that we did with a group of people. And as we started to plan those trips, we had to consider where are these people going to fly into. So the second ski trip that we did was to Megève, France, which was a kind of Geneva flight. And then the third one that we did was Kitzbühel, which I think had different flights. But like in your view, what are the top five, let's just say JFK or like New York Metro routes that you could do to Europe for a ski holiday? Like starting with Geneva and just kind of rolling through that list.
Yeah. That you're exactly right. So as we kind of built this into a tradition, I had friends and family slash my husband who was quite jealous about the fun that was had in Cortina and wanted to tag along. And we welcomed him with open arms. And we also, and we had other friends that were just like, that seemed like a great trip. Um, Winter can be, winter in New York can be a bummer. People, want something to look
Yeah.
forward to and get out of town. Um, so we decided to do more of a group trip. When we opened that up, the way that I structured it, or that we thought about it, was taking the MLK holiday in January, and where people have the Monday off, you've got the 3 day weekend. But the benefit of that we discussed was that yes, it does come, a couple weeks after New Year's. So, if you kind of are in a need sort of to kind of get back to work, it can feel like
Yeah.
you're walking, that you're getting away like just after a long break. But the benefit is it's not a holiday in Europe. So there you don't have this high season or sort of like a crush of European travelers.
Yeah, can I
Um,
just pipe in there with kind of like the European ski season, what I've noticed?
sure.
So, really quick, it kind of opens like late November, early December, depending on the location. It's going to get high season, busy pricing just before Christmas, all the way through New Year's. And then you have this kind of dead air. And this is the period that Smith is referring to. So, like the first week of January until early, not the first week of February, maybe like mid February until the end of the season at the end of March. February to March is kind of the second high season that ski resorts have. And then there are some resorts where you can still do skiing in April, but that's going to be at low season pricing. So I'll let you get back. But this is why we kind of honed in on January.
Yeah. And so to that end, we were like, we you're I I own my own business. I'm have a little more flexibility. But others that were, had a finite number of vacation days in order to kind of pitch the trip. We said, you could get this great holiday and only have to take 2 days of vacation. And so wanted to find something that would be easy for people coming from different places, even if they were coming from different places in the US, to be able to kind of converge and get together. And then from there at a hub airport and then get to the mountain relatively easy. And so you look at the what we call kind of the gateways or kind of hubs that are adjacent to to the great alpine resorts, and the ones that come to mind immediately are Geneva, Switzerland, it's going to give you you're really close access to all of the like really top French resorts.
Yeah.
Um, Megève, Courchevel, Travaillé, Val d'Isère, Chamonix, the kind of the original winter sports Olympics host. And those are all going to be less than 2 hours from Geneva. Um, you can arrange transfer, but also there are even train options. But so Geneva is one, Zurich is the other. The largest city in Switzerland. It's going to have the most international flights um, between the two, between Geneva and Zurich. But from there, you can go down to kind of the Berner Oberland resorts, Stade, even Kron, Andermatt, down to Zermatt, even St. Moritz, and some of the Western Switzerland resorts are accessible all from Zermatt. Milan is also going to be great. You're sort of perched right there. You're at the top of Italy, right at the foot of the Alps, and you
Hmm.
can go from there. You can actually go up into Switzerland. You can get to Zermatt, Switzerland from Milan, Italy, or you can go east towards France and Courmayeur and those resorts, and then also west into the Dolomites, like we
Hmm.
did. So,
We should
and
shout
then
out Cervinia as well because Cervinia is kind of this Italian
yes,
resort that sits on the other side of the Matterhorn. So if
yes.
the sticker shock of like Swiss prices in Zermatt is too much for you, you can also look into Cervinia. Um, Incidentally, I don't think it's any closer to Milan, but it's just another resort in that
Yeah.
area.
Um, and then Munich, another great, like because it's a hub for Lufthansa, so you've got a ton of direct
Mm-hmm.
flights to the US. They even fly to Texas, has some directs to Munich, of kind of the big Texas cities, fly directly there. And from there, you can go to Garmisch, you can go to the big Tyrolean
Mm-hmm.
resorts of Kitzbühel and Salzburg, and um, um, I'm blanking on the uh,
Meyerhofen is there. You have the whole Zillertal.
Meyerhofen,
Yeah.
yeah, Solden,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, stuff like that.
Zuden.
Yeah, Zulden. My German is nine. Um, and then the other I would say throw out, which is I think the one that people would be surprised by is Venice,
Yeah.
because you just don't think of it as kind of a gateway there, but it's actually the closest airport to Cortina and the
Mm-hmm.
Dolomites. And there are now, even if you have to look, you can connect in any of the major hubs to get to Venice, but even now there are some directs from several different carriers fly direct to Venice. I know you can fly
Mm-hmm.
there directly from New York, I think from Atlanta, Philadelphia, Washington, or maybe not Washington, but so that and you're less than 2 hours from Cortina d'Ampezzo, which, as we
Mm-hmm.
said, is hosting the Olympics next year. So you're going to just see more and more about it.
But Venice is also a good option if you wanted to like go into Slovenia and do the Julian Alps. We kind of drove
Absolutely.
through that area and
Yep.
incredibly local, not very touristy, but super close to Venice. So
Totally.
yeah.
And then, and one other, well, most recent time when we went to Kitzbühel in Austria, I flew into Vienna and then took a really
Yes.
lovely train. We took that train together
It was a
to meet
very
the rest
fun
of our
train
group.
ride.
Lovely train ride, 3 hours in the cafe car, just with rolling hills, you know, eventually grew to the mountains of the
Hmm.
Tyrol. And that was great too. And Venice has, I'm sorry, Vienna has actually some Austrian Airlines flies direct to Chicago, to Boston, to New York, to DC. So that's a really great option as well.
Hmm.
You're going to be a little more like a little further removed from the resorts, but it's really accessible, really easy to do by train. which I always find just to be lovely if you're coming off of a red eye to not have to deal with renting a car and just being able to hop on a train and if you didn't get a great night's sleep, you can rest and relax as you kind of roll towards your destination. So those are just kind of the obvious ones, but that's also very Alps focused.
I was
Uh,
just thinking that. Should we maybe talk about some of the
ski.
non-Alps options?
Sure. I mean, look, I've yet to, these are all things that just have been kicked around, but I've never been to the Pyrenees, but there's a lot of people that it gets really great snow coverage. And so the season is pretty robust. I don't think
Hmm.
you're going to have near the same crowds that you would have at like the major alpine resorts. So that's Spain, Andorra, parts of like I think there's some French resorts as well on the French side of the Pyrenees.
Hmm.
And for that, Barcelona would be the the gateway there, and then hop up. I think you can be in Andorra in about 2 or 3 hours from Barcelona.
Yeah. Obviously, I know that we talk a little bit about Slovenia as being outside of the Alps. That's kind of part of this like Dolomites resort area. I mean, it's not in the Dolomites, but if you're going to the Dolomites, it's kind of just southeast of that. Someplace that I continue to be really curious
I know what
about
you're gonna
is
say.
like,
The Tatras.
obviously, I'm super curious about skiing in the Tatras. That area, I guess it's kind of like Slovakia and then also like
Poland.
Zakopane in
Yeah.
Poland. I was actually going to say Bankso in Bulgaria because I always see
Ah,
people
yes.
like talking about this as being such a fantastic ski resort, and it is just not on any American's radar, you know?
That is totally. Yeah, that's a great idea.
But I guess we could like group that into this kind of like wider Eastern Europe, a little bit of Balkans, and then all the way up into like the Tatra Mountains. And then the biggest one that I think is kind of poised, I we're gonna talk about this later, like not on this call, but later we'll talk about like trend lists and where is the place to go. But I just think that the Nordics are like overdue for so much attention. And obviously, when it comes to skiing, you've got like fantastic Scandinavian skiing, right? So in Ada, Sweden, and
Yep.
Hemsedal, and all of these places, I
Yeah,
think that's also fantastic for Americans because everyone speaks English. You've got that Northern Lights potential, which is kind of just built
that's
into
cool.
the,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
That's a
yeah, I
great
think,
point. And same with um the infrastructure there of getting there has just only gotten easier.
yeah.
There are so many flights to Oslo, Stockholm, all of them. And so yeah, that's a great point.
Hmm. Okay.
One thing that whenever we were like thinking about as you're listing these places and I kind of nodding along, when we were like trying to be like, oh, I want to make sure we didn't miss anywhere to like consider. I looked at the like the World Cup ski like calendar just to see like where they were going to
Oh, the
doing
resorts where
events.
this competitive skiing is happening.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
obviously everyone knows the Olympics, but you only get, every
Hmm.
4 years, and so it's not like you're going to have the sample size or just of different of resorts as many as you would have in a single ski season, because it's like all these people are, we see them every 4 years, but or pay
They
attention, but
have been skiing in
but
those four
they're
years. Yeah.
skiing, yeah, all year long and all over the world. So I'll grab inspo from that. But and I feel like the Bulgaria Zakopane are and apologies to
Pronunciation.
the native pronunciations because I truly did not mean to butcher that, but uh are all on part of that
Hmm.
um circuit. Yeah.
Okay. So now I think this is a perfect time. I wanted to do like a rapid fire with you. So I've already done a video about like how to pick a ski resort, what the like elements that you should consider are important because, yeah, there's a video about it on the YouTube channel. You can check that out. I'll put like a little card up here so that you can link to it. But I wanted to ask Smith his opinion on some of these like criteria because, again, part of the goal of this live is for us to decide where we're going to go on our own ski trip this year. So I'm going to do like a rapid fire. I want you to tell me what you think about this like element or dimension of choosing a ski resort criteria. And yeah, you tell me what you think is best. So number one, accessibility, trains, airport transfer, like accessibility. What's your take on that?
Um, excuse me. I think extremely important. I would put that right there with any other top consideration, whether like cost, location, etc., date.
But what
Um,
is your personal take? Do you think that you should choose a resort that is train like you can take a train to get there, like Kitzbühel or Garmisch, or do you think renting a car is fine? Like what's your preference when it comes to that?
I would say there's in terms of airport transfer itself, I don't I'm indifferent
Yeah.
about having a train. I think so many of the best resorts um that we've seen are not accessible by train.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of like Lech in Austria,
Mm-hmm.
Cortina, doesn't have a train station. Um, and so, and even the ones that do, I mean, Megève technically has a train station, but it's not, I mean, you essentially would have to take a car from
Yeah.
the train station to wherever you were staying. So I think you can arrange, especially if you're with a group, you can arrange airport transfer pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
In a car, uh, if you're by yourself or it's one or two people, then I think having a train is going to be a cost savings versus a private
Yeah.
transfer. But and I'm sure you might be getting to this next, I would say the car rental or kind of accessibility of the town itself is one thing to consider, but then also getting around the
Within.
actual resort and within
Yeah.
is the other big thing to think about.
Yeah, so we have experience with this. When we went to Cortina, I rented a car, and that was how I got from Venice to Cortina. Smith ended up like actually getting a transfer from Milan. But it was great because in Cortina, the ski lifts are kind of outside of the center of town. So we didn't have to worry about taking like the shuttle bus or anything like that. But honestly, I think we took a taxi to dinner every single night because it was like, okay, it's snowy. If I have a glass of wine, I don't want the rental car. So the following year, we ended up going to Megève. We got a house outside of town. So we were still in Megève, just up on the mountain a little bit. And here we assumed that the shuttle would be robust and perfectly fine. And we found ourselves taking Ubers everywhere in a place that didn't have great infrastructure for Ubers.
No, not even Ubers. They weren't
Oh,
Ubers. They didn't
they
have
were
Uber.
they were true taxis, right?
We had to call and book a taxi and the language barrier was
Yeah.
too like and that was pretty humbling for me because otherwise it was a truly wonderful trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
The house was lovely. We had a beautiful fireplace and like had a giant like charcuterie board the first night and it was really lovely. Um, but I in ignorantly was relying on having access to mobile ride share,
Yeah.
ride hailing service, and yeah, it wasn't available. And I would say we were in that trip, we were just outside of town. Like if you had to walk, you could. It was about a
And
20-minute walk.
members of our group decided to walk all over the place.
They
So like it
they
wasn't
did.
a huge problem. It was just like, when
Well,
you're a
but the
group of
thing,
people going out to dinner, it was kind of like, wouldn't
yeah,
this be
totally. You
easier?
don't want to trudge through the snow, and also there weren't sidewalks, so I
Yeah.
mean it could feel a little, you know, dicey walking down, a slippery
Snowy
mountain
hill.
road.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
And then for the
um,
third year that we did it, we went to Kitzbühel. So this was, a situation where there's a train station right in the middle of town. The town is also small enough that if you're staying at a hotel in town, you can just walk to the kind of slope access is right there too. So that was probably the
Yes,
sweet spot.
agreed. Yeah. Um, that's I think we have really great, like, we've had really great experiences and kind of takeaways from everywhere we've gone in kind of trying to craft like the perfect resort or kind of where we would go
Yeah.
back to. I'll actually tell you, the one of the goals of this, um, in my mind when we started was I want to try out kind of essentially I want to go to kind of every resort that I even think I would like that
Hmm.
kind of ticks a lot of boxes. I like a little fancy, I like a little sporty, I like a little fun, I like a little, I ideally it's cute and charming, and accessible and all, without, where you can do it. If you need to pull back in terms of price, you can,
Yeah.
which is why Switzerland and San Moritz is still
It's
hard.
still on the
But
TBD.
yeah, but my goal was I want to kind of know, I want to see all these different places, and then I want to find the one that's going to be like my ski resort. Like you
Yeah,
know
yeah,
how
yeah. Yes,
like
yes.
the Prince of Wales, they always go to Closters, like that's their ski resort. Like I want to find like this is I always ski in Lek. Where do you ski?
I
That's
low key think that if we stay in the center of Megève, it could be that. Like,
oh, 1,000%.
yeah, it is just. I
But
still
we
can't get
took
beyond like being right there. Hibou Blanc, the you've got the ski rental place there, and then it's like you just
yeah,
walk up these stairs, and that is your lift
yes,
access. Like it is right in the middle of town. And then of
yeah.
course, the
But even
DJ that we had that night at what is the Cha Cha, the name of that club?
yeah. Mhm.
Oh my god, just like such a good memory.
Yeah, listen, it's I even think we could go back now and knowing what we know. Some of it was just like I said, I had planned the trip. I felt partially responsible for like
Yeah,
not even kind of doing the research. But now we know it's like so depending on whether if you did want a chalet, like something
yeah, yeah.
like perched a little higher, you could do that. Also, the Four Seasons right there, ski in, ski out,
Which is
if that's
fabulous.
in your
I went there to
budget.
get a massage. It
Um,
was fabulous. Yeah.
but I agree, like the town itself had it was charming. It was that I will say, like, I feel like I've been chasing that après, that late afternoon scene of like that main like 3 blocks with Ibu Blanc. There was another one we
Ah,
did the night
yes.
where you've got like
Yes.
the furs and the fondue and the warmth and
Yeah. Megève is just
um
like a very upscale kind of place. So it's not like you come off the mountain and you're instantly just like taking shots of Jägermeister, which is very much the vibe in Austria. Instead, you like come down and you sit at a chic little restaurant and you have like a delicious melted cheese
fondue, yeah,
variety. Yeah.
yeah.
Along with like a beautiful, and they had the most amazing beverage. And this is why I'm so fascinated by like skiing in Europe because it seems like everything like people are squeezing the water out of the stone when it comes to traveling in Europe. But I will ask people, have you ever had a chauvert, like this beverage that everyone was drinking? And they look at me, they're like, I've never heard of this, But
Yeah,
it's
the chartreuse. Yeah,
chartreuse hot chocolate. Like this is why you have to
yeah.
travel. Like you have to go to these places and experience it yourself because like the world is not Instagram. That's what I'll say. Yeah.
And we had a less similarly unique and local tipple the year before, the Bombardino
The Bombardino, that's right. Yeah.
in Cortina, which I'm less inclined to bring back to New York and make for
Recommend.
friends and family. Yeah.
And then when we were in Kitzbühel, I think we have pictures on like our camera rolls of just us making like little towers out of empty Jägermeister bottles. So,
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
okay, I feel like you kind of I had all these rapid fire questions for you, and then you were like, I like a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little, and that's kind of my answer for all of them. So with après ski, it's like you're not looking for this very upscale luxury. It's like you want that mix of fun and then that mix of relaxing. Like, what's
Yeah.
your take on après?
Um, I yes, full stop. I want it's like you want to have if you do want to have, let's say you're doing a 4 or 5 night ski trip, you might have one big night in there where you're staying out a little late.
Nobody's
You're gonna
feeling good the
everyone's
next day. Nobody wants
yeah,
to ski.
you're gonna joke about it, as you're falling
Yeah.
down the mountain the next day. And then you're gonna have days where you want evenings where you want a really nice dinner and
Yeah.
then call it a night. You're gonna have somewhere, you come down off the mountain, everyone's starving because they've really gotten after
Mm-hmm.
it that day. And then you're gonna grab nibbles, you're gonna grab bites, and that's gonna be dinner. Like you're just gonna, call it
Mm-hmm.
after that. It's gonna be really so I like, I think ideally, like, you want to have it all. It also depends on who you're going with and kind of what the vibes
Oh,
are.
absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I table set a lot in my mind before I go on a trip as to like what kind of trip this is going to be and what the sort
Yeah.
of
Yeah. Yeah.
goals and sort of rhythms are going to be. Because, we had a really fun night in Kitzbühel. Um, that one DJ or
Megève.
bar. No, 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 no. The DJ was in Megève, but that bar we went to in Kitzbühel with
Oh, with
the Jaeger and the
the disco balls on the ceiling.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it was fun. It was like,
Yeah. It was a lot of
we
fun.
were we were done by midnight or 1
Mm-hmm.
a.m. But like
Yeah.
it was fun and great music and you like energetic. And we just did that one night and it was great. You remarked because you have more experience in Austrian ski resorts that
Mm-hmm.
this sort of like après like um
Dancing on the table,
slap
kind of.
yeah knee
Yeah.
slapping and like
Yeah.
whatever Charlie Woo Woo or whatever it's called. Like, um, what
Charlie
is
Woo
it?
Woo.
What's the
Johnny
song?
Depp.
Johnny
Johnny
Depp.
Depp. Johnny
Johnny Depp.
Depp. Johnny Depp. Depp. Depp.
Kitzbühel
Johnny.
didn't have quite as much of that. I mean, it had a Montclair store and like a Louis Vuitton, so maybe it's not
Yeah,
the
she was
maybe
fancy. She
Kitz.
was. She
Yeah,
was definitely fancy.
but
Um,
it reminds me because I loved Cortina, but in retrospect, Cortina was quite sleepy.
Cortina was a bit sleepy. So one interesting thing from the blog, I updated all of my posts about Cortina earlier this year, and took the I took all of the stuff about après out. It was like a paragraph and a half, and I made it its own post and kind of augmented it. In January, it was like one of the top posts on the blog, and I was like, this does not surprise me in the least. It's because people that are in Cortina are like, where's the action? You know?
Right, right.
So yeah,
The one thing I will
doesn't
say,
surprise me.
I remember, and this is only complicated because you had to drive back to the city. I mean, there are shuttle buses, so,
Mm-hmm.
um, but when we were still on the mountain, there was a lot. I actually found that to have like, the most fun. Like when we were at the base of the mountain in Cortina,
Yeah, yeah,
after we
yeah.
were skiing, like DJ, like a really fun DJ, gorgeous. Like even all the huts and places on the mountain. Like I'm thinking about like you and your instructor stopping for like, as he's having like a
Grappa.
cigarette,
That's
yeah,
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
cigarette and
You like
schnapps
have
at
yeah.
this
It's so great.
gorgeous,
Oh,
refugio.
yeah.
Um, uh,
Speaking of stuff you do on the mountain, now I did a video about all of the differences between like skiing in Europe versus skiing in the US, and the one that kind of felt like the most like essential was just this whole dining thing. And one thing that we love to do when we plan like a ski trip is we love to do like a really nice on mountain lunch. And I was just doing all of this research and it was like, yeah, that doesn't happen at all if you're skiing in the
yeah,
US. Like you're getting
yeah,
personal pan pizza and that's it.
you were getting a plastic tray and
Yeah.
a soda fountain, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you're checking out with the cashier at the end. Listen, it's totally like I'm not gonna knock it. Like there are times when you just want to crush, a slice of pizza and get back on the slopes and
Yeah.
and this isn't that. This is truly it's become like a real something that we kind of build around. Like I remember that lovely lunch in Cortina when it was just
Oh
you and
yeah.
I,
That was so great.
at that Baita. I can't remember the name.
Baita.
Um,
Yeah, I don't know if it's there
yeah,
anymore.
I think you maybe had to be delivered there or brought down to the restaurant, if I don't recall.
I was
But
brought down to the restaurant by the Italian ski patrol, if that's what you're
yes,
alluding to. Yes.
yes.
But you know what? That
Um,
that photo that I took up on Tofana, the one that I got into, it kind of was worth it. It was worth it.
yes,
It was worth it, and
yeah,
I say that as someone who was on the back of a snowmobile going easily 60 miles an hour down a mountain,
yeah.
um, which was not ideal,
And
but
like
it
a
was worth
straight
it.
60-degree angle. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Not my ideal, but
Um, but the lunch in Megève, I mean, you're gonna have a gorgeous glass of wine in
yeah,
stemware. You're gonna get like plated dishes on china. It's gonna take an hour and a half. Like
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's a time commitment. And guess what? If you're like, you know what, I've got a limited amount of time on the slopes, then that's not gonna be for you. But it was a really special part of kind of the food and like the dining culture
yeah.
and for anyone doing it, absolutely identify those restaurants and make a reservation
You need
because
a reservation for the
every
best ones.
European
Yeah.
every European will be making a
Hmm.
reservation for lunch.
I
So
would
that was
also
yeah.
say pace yourself, because if this is a new style of like enjoying lunch on a ski trip, you absolutely have to pace yourself. I have these pictures in my camera roll of, do you remember in Kitzbühel when we had that like outdoor lunch and you did not bring sunglasses? So you're wearing your goggles, and then at one point you put a napkin under your goggles. It was like Mr. Napkin Face from the holiday. Anyway, so
Yeah,
I
sunscreen is like the low key.
sunscreen. Wait, sunscreen and like a cheap pair of polarized sunglasses. Always have those like in your jacket. But anyway, during that lunch, the server was somebody was like, "We need a bottle of champagne," and the server brings us a absolutely humongous Magnum, and I was like, I had a really tough time getting down the mountain. Like I think I took my skis off and like slid down on my butt. Like I just couldn't do it.
You can see if that ski patrol was
So pace yourself, folks.
yeah,
Pace yourself.
good advice. Always good advice in
Yeah.
on the mountain and in life generally. So
What do you think about like we talked a little bit about this, right? We talked about what is the European ski season, where are some, holidays in the United States calendar that you can take advantage of. But from your perspective, like what is the ideal length of a European ski trip if you're traveling, like we said, from the US, from the East Coast?
I think minimum 4 nights.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're a big skier, you're gonna want to do 5. You know, and this is just a preference thing. I know that some people just take a week, to go
Mm-hmm.
for a ski holiday. A lot of Europeans do it. A lot of people do it out west. That's too much for me. I don't.
Yeah.
I love to ski, but there are diminishing returns from me after a few days. Now, that being said, there's plenty of stuff to do. Like you can have a spa day, you can
Mm-hmm.
sightsee, whatever,
Yeah.
depending on where you choose. But I think 4 days is a minimum, and it's struck for I would say casual skiers,
Mm-hmm.
or casual, beginner, intermediate, whatever your skill level, but whether kind
Mm-hmm.
of like the amount of time you want to do, because that is 4 nights is really 5 because you've got the red eye flight,
Mm-hmm.
and then so
Yeah.
you land in Europe in the morning or mid morning if you have to connect, and so you're getting to your resort usually late afternoon or
Yeah.
mid to late afternoon depending on where you go.
But
Maybe
that's
you're
not a
there
ski
for
day.
lunch,
Like you're
but
done.
that's not a
Yeah.
ski day.
Yeah.
You're getting your gear, you're getting checked in, maybe you're jet lagged.
Mm-hmm.
So a 4 nights in a hotel, like a 4 nights in a resort, is really three ski days.
Yeah.
It's gonna give you 3 ski days. For some people, for me, that's enough. But others might want a fourth day to hedge against, well, maybe you could have 3 ski days spread out over 4 days.
Yeah.
maybe you just kind of take a hard tumble and like you really want to, sit out a day.
Mm-hmm.
And also weather. I mean, you could have like the more days you
Very
are going to
true.
give yourself a better chance of kind of finding those ideal conditions.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I like four because I like to move on to, I want to spend some time in a city and hit a few museums. So it's like I usually, even if I'm doing a week-long trip to Europe, 4 days of skiing might be then go into, 3 days in a hub city where I can,
Yeah.
spend some time in a museum and at a few nice restaurants before I head back. Um, so yeah, that's just a preference thing. But I think it's a total absolute minimum of 4 days,
Yeah.
unless you're already over there and then you could build it in. Maybe you get you know, a tighter thing if you're
Yeah, let's
already.
talk about that because I mean, I've done like I think when I did Garmisch, we had 2 full days and like this is the thing. I think growing up I did not ski. Like I was under the impression that you went to a mountain, you were there for like a full week and that was all you did. And that's just not my vibe. Like I enjoy going and skiing definitely that first day when you're out with like the entire group, so much fun. Probably a second day. By the third day, like my legs, that's kind of my upper limit is like 3 days. But I loved when we did like Cortina and Venice, even with Kitzbühel. Like we were in Vienna that day before. If you're going to do Garmisch, you could absolutely do a couple days in Munich. And honestly, even with like Megève or Chamonix or something like that, you could also work in a trip to Paris. So like
Thousand
if you
percent, yeah.
if you could think of like I don't know another like hub city resort matchup, like what would be on your
Um,
mind?
yeah, Venice Cortina is just an absolute because I just to even just to echo and underscore that because it's so like the experience of each are so different. I mean, you're in truly such a charming,
Venice
beautiful
Cortina.
alpine. Yeah, to go from an alpine town with like the
Yeah,
Dolomites to literally like gondolas
the
and
canals. Oh, it's
and
such a
canals.
great it's such a great like
It's
distinction. Plus Venice in the winter, like do not sleep on that because there is just so much fog. It's incredibly atmospheric
absolutely.
and so few people are there. It is like the best way to
It
experience
was
Venice.
it was I'd never been like a Venice person, and that
Mm-hmm.
trip when we were there, and I was like, this is stunning. Like this
Yeah.
is so, are you gonna deal with a lot more closures? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
the
For
restaurant
sure.
you saw on Instagram might be closed. Yeah.
Yeah.
The museum that you wanted to go to might only be open like 3 days a week, but the trade-off was immense. But another one I would say is Milan is great
Mm-hmm.
because, like I said, you can go east towards into like Valdosta, Courmayeur, um, even
Mm.
Chamonix. Chamonix. Hey, buddy. Through the tunnel into the French resorts. So um, Milan is great. You could even do if you wanted to kind of get that same vibe of kind of a real juxtaposition. Even the south of France, like Nice, uh,
Oh, like kind of like a
and
winter
then
beach trip, like.
yeah, just like off-season beach. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many great art museums down there with the Picasso Museum in Antibes and the Fondation Mott and the Matisse Chapel in Aix or in Vence. And then you could go from there, you could shoot up via train up to the French resorts,
Mm-hmm.
kind of.
Oh, that's a great
Um,
idea.
and I also think that I think that excuse me, I think Zurich is such a like sleeper hit of a city. It's just it's beautiful. I think there's plenty to do. Great
Mm-hmm.
museums, excellent train network.
What is the
Uh,
closest ski resort to Zurich?
so I think Andermatt
Okay.
would be the closest to Zurich, and then
Mm-hmm.
maybe Stad, but I don't know. Stad might be closer to Geneva, but It's not as close, like it looks close on a mountain, but because of the terrain. But the train rides are going to be stunning,
Yeah,
as you're getting
truly,
from.
truly. This is something I don't even think like I even if we don't end up skiing in Switzerland this winter, like I would love to just go and take one of those like glass roofed trains through Switzerland. Like that
Yeah.
sounds so amazing. Okay. Okay, I think that we have talked a ton about skiing and we're kind of coming up on an hour. But let me ask you this, where should we ski this year? Like, I know you have sent me the texts that you send every year, right? Like, what about
Yeah.
this? What about this? But,
Yeah.
like, what is it feeling like? Because for me, it's kind of feeling like we need to just bite the bullet and do Switzerland.
So I pulled some here are my my things to consider, and I don't disagree with you. The thing about Zermatt, which we've always like had on our list, is like, and this was almost kind of what drove part of my when we first decided to go to Cortina. I wanted to go to Cortina because I was like interested in the Dolomites as like
Yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
travel destination. Like I
Yeah.
wanted to travel there. I also wanted to ski. I think that was like a fun bonus, but like it was driven by the fact that I wanted to go. And I think Zermatt is one of those places because you've got the Matterhorn.
Mm-hmm.
It's this
Yeah.
iconic year-round destination. It's a car-free town. It was like a grand tour stop,
Stop. Yeah, for
of
years, for
your
centuries. Yeah.
and and so it is a travel destination in its own right,
Yeah.
regardless of whether you've ever skied a slope in your life. So that's always been uh, like a driver, and I think it's also something that other people would be interested in, like even like kind of casual, like friends who maybe have casual interest in a ski
Yeah.
trip, would be driven by or would be drawn to that, and also because it is a year-round destination. Um, you get a lot of hikers in the summer, you get a lot of
Yeah.
backpackers, so you are gonna have a robust mix of lodging types,
Yeah, yeah, for
configurations,
sure.
price points. So I think Zermatt was kind of on my kind of top. Because of the whole Olympics thing, I know that the Cortina Tourism Board was trying their darndest to say, like, no, 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 please still come.
Please still
Um,
come.
it's
And
sort
a
of a
lot of
pass
the
for
big
me.
mountains are going to be closed. Like I did receive a press release from the Cortina ski, like the travel tourism board, and it was one of those. It was one of those emails where like the subject line was like everything is still open, full details below, and like as you read the full details, a ton of the competitive stuff is going to be happening on Tofana, which still was like just that was such a
Yeah,
fantastic mountain.
yeah,
You can tell from that release that they're trying to move people to some of the resorts that we drove past, like on our way to
Lagos.
Laguzui.
Yeah,
Laguzui, yeah. So I agree. I also think like I do want to see the new Mandarin or Oriental property that just opened there. It's the Cristallo Hotel. It's like this more than 100 years old property that is
yeah.
now going to be managed by Mandarin Oriental. Very curious about that. I think it opened. I think it's opening like right now. But I agree. I don't think we've done enough to like warrant a repeat. Um,
So
yeah,
there's where you might lose me because the only I would
I know what you're
say
gonna say.
I would say the other thing that I put to the side this year was Austria just because that's where we went. We did
Yeah,
not go last year, but that's where we most recently went,
yeah.
or I didn't.
Kitzbühel. Yeah,
It's to Kitzbühel. Um, so putting that kind of to the side because there are some killer. I'm dying to go to St. Anton and Lech,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and which actually is also another Zurich kind of gateway because you're actually so
Mm-hmm.
far. I mean, you're essentially almost to Liechtenstein there, but okay. So Zermatt, um, the other was like I would go back to Megève, like and just
Yeah.
do it right, and do it and kind of knowing what I know now, especially if the White Lotus rumors that have narrowed it down to only three Four Seasons
Can we talk
properties.
about
Like
that? Can we talk about that?
I
So,
actually hope it's not
okay,
Megève. I'm
okay,
actually
let's talk
gonna
about this.
gatekeep her.
Let's talk about this. So the rumors are that, for one, the rumor, I guess, that has not been confirmed is that it's going to be in France. That is, I don't know if that's confirmed, but what
I
is
thought that was
confirmed,
confirmed.
okay, I'm not sure. I think that's the rumor. What is confirmed is that the White Lotus as a TV show has a like management agreement with Four Seasons. So these the White Lotus, as you see it on the television screen, is it's being filmed at a Four Seasons property. So when the rumor about France came out, everybody very quickly said, okay, there's only three properties in France, right? So they are
Yep.
the Four
The
Seasons
George
in
sank
Megève,
in Paris.
George sank in Paris, which I don't know. We'll put that to the side. And then the very fantastic, is it Cap d'Antibes? No.
No,
Cap Ferrat.
Cap Ferrat. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for me personally, I feel like if it's going to be in the same vein as all the other seasons, it's got to be Cap Ferrat, right? But people have been begging, or not begging, but like there's always this chatter that they would do like a snow White Lotus, like a winter
Right.
season. And apparently, and this is why I kind of think it's bullshit. Mike White says, I don't like the cold, ergo it will never be in and like maybe that's true, but I think it's just like such a delightfully bullshit excuse that that's where it could possibly be like wink wink. Mike White doesn't like the
Right.
snow, but nevertheless we're doing it there.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't know Mike personally. Could be a red herring. But he has everything that I know about that is that everything that I've ever read is that how much he detests being cold. So
Oh, really?
um,
You think it's not a red herring? You think like he truly does not want to do it
I,
there?
I've seen it in like multiple. I've seen like other actors and actresses. I don't know. Who knows? It could be a very coordinated and
Do you think
savvy.
Paris is the red herring? Like because everyone's like, "Oh, they couldn't possibly do it in a city," but like maybe that's the like new
I think
twist.
the one that would make the most sense is like because it's sort of you sort of need this aspect of like not isolation, but like almost like an island of
Yes, you need I think
action
isolation
activity.
is,
And
yeah,
I think like no one's sitting at the hotel restaurant every night in Paris, which is a
100%.
trope that and
Yeah.
granted you could have made that argument in Sicily, but like you'd be surprised at how like cosseted people are in terms of like,
Yeah.
we went out for lunch, but now we're just going to go back to the hotel and have dinner.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think that flies in Paris in the same way that it would.
And
So
honestly, the
I don't
Four
know.
Seasons Megève is in and of itself, it fits that kind of like it fits that brief because it is not in the town
I mean, think
proper.
of
It's
all the
up
like,
on the mountain. You as
yeah,
soon as you get
it's
to
like the
Megève, you
shining of it
see
all. It could be
yes. It's also
just,
one of the only like ski in, ski out, like purpose built resorts.
yeah, yeah,
I think it could be fantastic.
I
I
agreed.
so
However,
maybe we
selfishly, I don't want,
it would probably ruin it. I feel like Taormina is now like
oh,
overrun.
1,000%. No
Yeah.
one's ever heard of Megève.
No one
Like
had ever
outside of
heard of
out.
Taormina. Yeah.
To be fair, I had been to Taormina before, but before White
This is
Lotus.
why
But
Smith is like my travel bestie because he's
um,
yeah.
so back to the task at hand. I'm throwing out Megève, but my other is I think French resorts are killer. I think their
Yeah.
mix of après. I love the food and drink. I love
Yeah.
like you have that entire tranche of Haute Savoy, Savoy. That whole area in France is all really like less than 2 hours from Geneva.
Can I tell
Um,
you what always holds me back about France? A
please.
perhaps um unfair I just have this like fear that we're going to go to a French resort and that the stereotype is going to be true and it's going to be entirely British people and then there will be like no feeling of nothing local about it. Because this is what I've always heard is that the Brits ski in France because it's so easy.
So I mean, I didn't feel that way in Megève at all.
But
I don't
Megève
know.
feels, Megève is not Val d'Isère, is my point.
Yeah, so Val d'Isère was the one I was going to throw out. So got me.
Got me.
Um,
Okay, we added to the list though, right? Val d'Isère.
yeah. Um, the other is the like Andorra question. I, as you know, for any, for everyone to know, my husband is a big like loves going to new places, as do I. And the idea of going to one of Europe's microstates, Andorra, that is otherwise just like a tax shelter with an
Easy
outlet
to miss.
mall, like
Yeah.
tucked in the Pyrenees. It's a great excuse to go see a new place. And I've never been to that part. I've been to Barcelona, but never up into Catalonia and the Pyrenees. So I am intrigued. Um, I wonder, and maybe this is just my own bias or ignorance of like, is it going to still feel kind of give you kind of like that warm and cozy feeling that Alpine skiing holidays gives? And probably like I'm sure they know what they're doing and I'm sure they have an incredible time doing it. So, but that's
Wait a
my only
second. I have
hold.
a question. So, to piggyback on the Andorra thing, I did like an Instagram vibe check where I looked at what locate like people that had tagged the ski resort in
Yeah.
Andorra, and it was not like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful, I need to go. Like, so that's why I'm maybe not as excited about it. But
Also, like, there's something about like a slope side paella that just sort of turns my
doesn't
stomach. Like,
doesn't
yeah,
and again, like we said, we always do like this
yeah,
really nice lunch, and
yeah.
yeah, like a paella, and like
Ugh. They're
I don't
just
know.
bringing over just like a simmering pan of like squid ink, like risotto with
Rice.
like
I couldn't do
shrimp
it.
heads just staring back at you. Like, I don't know.
I couldn't do it. But isn't there another resort in Spain? Like, isn't there a southern resort?
Yeah.
Sierra Nevada?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Sierra Nevada. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It's the highest mountain in Spain, which is insane. Or like the highest vertical drop of any ski resort in Spain. And that is
Interesting.
in Andalusia, and it's like near Granada. I think it's closer to Granada, but maybe Seville. And listen, that is, I don't know if that would be this year, but maybe I would be really interested. Um, because last year going to Seville, it was like I like run, don't walk. Like I can't wait to go back. It's just an
This is
unbelievable
so high on
place.
my list. Yeah.
You still haven't done Seville, yeah?
I haven't done Sevilla. It was
Okay.
on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
blog's list for 2025, but
yeah.
I haven't
You
made
got to
it.
do it at
Yeah.
Thanksgiving. Like go this
Yeah,
year
yeah,
at
yeah.
Thanksgiving. It was the perfect time of year. Um, so that's actually great. I truly hadn't even considered it. I think it's worth looking into. I would say, and then the other that I had was Courmayeur, which we had actually talked about maybe for last year. We weren't able to go last year. I had a pretty long kind of big trip to Australia that was kind of planned and like kind of a family trip, seeing friends and family there. And that sort of ate into because it's their summer and we were
Mm,
building around Australian Open tennis. That kind of ate most of our January, even into February, and then I was playing catch up rest of winter.
mm-hmm.
But we had talked about Courmayeur, which is an Italian resort on like
Western
uh,
side,
the
northwest.
Italian side of Chamonix. So think France, Italy, Mont Blanc, the
Yeah, so
highest
Mont
mountain in
Blanc.
Europe.
Yeah.
This is on
Ooh.
the Italian side, which is accessible from Torino, from Milan, via train,
Mm.
um, and uh, seems to have. It's not. I would say it's not going to be as fancy as Cortina. I think Cortina is like the
A little
de
more
facto
chic. Yeah.
like fanciest resort in Italy, but I do think it's got that old school. It's going to be similar to Chamonix. Like
Yeah.
it's going to have that winter sports tradition. You're going to have Italian, you know, dinners like and food and drink and kind of that
It's
culture.
also like so
Yeah.
charming when you're actually on the slopes and someone whizzes by you and they just go, "Scusi." Like,
Yeah.
hi. When that
Yep.
happened to me in Cortina, I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I could probably
Um,
be into that.
so the one thing I will soak in circling back, if we sort of said Zermatt,
Yeah.
Megève, Cortina, or Courmayeur, um, pros cons. Listen, I when we were doing searches already, and this goes to the point of like, it's September. Why are we doing this? There was already
Oh my God, yeah.
places in Switzerland. I did a cursory search of Verbier. I did a cursory search of Crown Montana.
Yeah.
Um, Everything was like you couldn't get anything.
Yeah.
Um, and one thing that I'll also just say, in terms of lodging or kind of housing, or accommodations, and to kind of to your group, is that we've done both a house, like a group house, and then
Mm-hmm.
we've also done individual hotels. I think you could absolutely make a pros cons to both. But if you have people that can't commit or that are maybes, then
So like
having a
you're booking
hotel,
a yeah, you're booking a group trip and someone says they're gonna come, but they're a little wishy-washy.
yeah, and or they have work stuff and you don't know if it's going to work out,
Mm-hmm.
doing the hotel or picking the city and saying, we're going here, we're staying here, join us. And you can do all the group dinners, you can coordinate on
Yeah.
everything. Um, but but the Um, but then it also gives people an opportunity. Like if you have some fancy friends who are like, my hotel has to have X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
like chances are, like if someone wants to splurge, if they wanted to stay at
Mm-hmm.
the Four Seasons, for example, they could. If someone's like, you know what, like can't wait to be here, but I'm actually trying to do this on a bit of a shoestring, I'm gonna stay at a hostel or I'm gonna stay at a
Yeah, yeah.
single,
So everyone
and
has
we,
flexibility. Like you pick the
yeah.
destination, you say we're going to be in Kitzbühel, but y'all pick your own hotels, and yeah, these are the dates.
And
Yeah,
And we did that, and sometimes it's necessarily so in that like there's not a single hotel that has 5 rooms, so it's like
yeah,
everyone's got to spread out over town. But I remember when we were in Kitzbühel, we were spread out over like 3 different properties, and it was fun because like Victor's place had a pool on the roof, and so people
yeah,
went over there. And then I think your spot had like this great hotel lobby that I could do
yeah,
some work whenever I needed to kind of post up. Because where I was staying didn't really have a lobby. Like the restaurant was in the lobby, and you couldn't
yeah.
really, kind of hang there in the evenings because they were doing dinner service. So that actually worked out great. The city was incredibly compact. Um, so I say all that because even doing a search now, um, things were filling up. I would say
Mm-hmm.
Zermatt was still like Switzerland was still Switzerlanding in that it was still expensive, like even
Yeah,
for a pretty basic hotel room.
yeah.
Um, and and I know that especially my husband, like friends of ours that have gone in the past, I think having some sort of like pool or thermal bath or spa or
Oh
hot
my God,
tub or
hot tub.
something is just
Excuse
like,
me. Yeah,
on
it's
everyone's
amazing.
wish list. And it was like, even if you use that as a must have, that already is gonna you're already coming in at a price point like above what even the lowest
Yeah.
that's still available is. So I say that about Zermatt. That was where Val d'Isère, Courmayeur, Megève still had less expensive
Yeah.
options. So
And just
that,
real quick, what were the dates that you were looking for? Were you back on like the Martin Luther King dates, kind of?
yes,
Okay.
yeah,
So low
yeah.
season was still pretty eye-watering for
Well,
Switzerland.
and because with this year, as we said, President's Day is going to pretty much be during the Olympics.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
that's not to say that like if you're going anywhere other than Cortina and Milan that you can't find
A deal.
deals
Yeah.
but I don't know, there was something about and maybe that could be really charming, but I really we could go into this in depth or kind of send some follow-up info about this, but we had sort of gone back, given how we didn't really talk about this, but like snow surety is
Yeah.
a big like it's sort of you're gonna get what you're gonna get depending, like you can try to like read all the almanacs and like do your best to predict, but at the end of the day, like you're gonna get what you're that's the one thing you can't predict. And so
So what Smith is
um
alluding to is the fact that when we got to Kitzbühel, all of the like mountains around us were just brown. Like there was no snow in the valley at all. And
it
we looked at
was
each other and
65 degrees.
we were kind of like, and this was the first year that we had done our annual ski trip, not during like the Martin Luther King Jr. weekend in January. And so we looked at each other and we were like, did we just screw up in a big way by picking President's Day weekend? It ended up being fine because again, there's like snow on the mountain. They are making snow, but like the snowshoe conversation is really important. When I was in Megève, no, I'm sorry, Meyerhofen, Austria, we had it was quite warm. It was like 70 degrees, but we had snow because this resort is just very close to a glacier. This is another thing that makes Zermatt really attractive. It's a glacier ski resort, so you can go skiing in Zermatt in like April, right? So
Yeah.
you do need to kind of consider it. And I do also need to do a call out to the one resort that we would both love to go to, but it is at such a low elevation that like we feel like if we go, there will be no snow, and that is Stad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stad might be like a summer hiking
Yeah.
holiday kind of thing. It's just so the elevation is so low, and given sort of change like
I
changing
know.
weather patterns, and it's just you might get some great snow there, but it's absolutely no guarantee.
Just to jump
Um,
back to accommodations really quick though, one thing we talked about how we've done hotels, we've done we did one kind of group rental. One thing that we actually haven't done, which is incredibly popular in France, and this could be what we do, is this kind of like hosted chalet, or I think they call it like a butlered chalet, where we basically, and for this I think we need to like know who the private companies are and providers are, but like you find a chalet, someone is going to be there, they're going to basically feed you breakfast and maybe a light lunch, but there will be food, everything will like already be waiting for you, and then you just kind of do your own thing for dinner, like half board kind of situation. But before, that's just a suggestion, but maybe you could also talk about like the stress that you felt as the person planning the Megève trip, because I know there's a certain degree of like stress when you're the person who has put a very expensive Airbnb like on your credit card, and you're trying to like get your friends excited to come on this trip. Like everybody had such a great time on that trip, but there is nobody ever talks about like how stressful it is for the person that plans it. And ultimately, I think that's why people don't go on trips with their friends as much.
well, I will say, I think all of that, I would say the vast majority of my like stress level around that trip came from the fact that like I'd never been to Megève, I'd
Yeah.
never skied in France. It was just the going in blind of it all. And guess what? There were things that that turned out to be like annoying when we had to like schlep back from like the grocery store or the market with all of our like bags of
Yeah, yeah.
provisions, and like find any taxi that would take us to get back up to this house. Um, we had we had really beautiful, like really fun dinners and lunches. I
Fantastic
think
dining.
all of
Fantastic
that
dining.
worked out
Yeah.
wonderfully. Uh, but just the unknowns, like I think going back now, I would feel so much less, less stressed out than that. But yeah, it is like, when you're trying to put together something, because guess what? You want it to, I mean, obviously everyone wants it to go well and everyone to have fun, but the other thing is that, if you have any idea of doing it again, then you want it to be a success so that,
Yeah.
you can then replicate it. So that is, I'm totally agree with you. I'm still curious to check out more places, but that is getting to why I do think eventually or at some point I see a ton of value in going back to places, because you do have
Yeah.
that familiarity, and it does take a little bit of like the stress of like, what's this going to look like when we get here? Like
Yeah.
you know, what are the vibes going to be, when we're there? So that is like a pitch for revisiting
repeating.
and repeating. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now we have talked, I know we're going over the hour, but maybe let's wrap it up with one topic. So yesterday you and I had like kind of a strategy sesh to talk about this, and you had an idea that I thought was like so good. This is what I want to end on, because I was thinking about it even today. So maybe you can talk a little bit more about this. I didn't realize it, but our annual ski trip is kind of like an example of a travel ritual. I thought this was such a cool idea because we live in this time where like people are like too afraid to call their friend that lives in the same town and say, "Hey, what are you doing next weekend?" And it's like an even bigger problem when it comes to like traveling with somebody. So you talked about how creating these little rituals around travel and like interests, which that's like my bread and butter, but maybe talk about like not only our ski trips, but like some tournaments that you go to, and how you have found that like keeps giving you a reason to like book something.
So it's yeah, I think, as we kind of said when we first did this trip to Cortina, it kind of gave like the fact that we kind of built it around the framework of a ski trip, it kind of added this layer, it added this meaning. We had a literal reason to go. Not
Mm-hmm.
that, not that you have to have like a stated goal. But it gave this purpose, and you also experienced the culture differently because you were, like having an Italian, a bronzed 75-year-old Italian ski instructor, was just this beautiful window into, Italian culture. Um, and where's the lie, right? Am I wrong?
Where's the lie?
Um, so to that end, I was thought about just kind of, because I know a lot of your work has been built about kind of having deeper experiences when you travel, and
Yeah.
it reminded me of, my husband and I are huge tennis fans. We got engaged at Wimbledon. Yeah, and so tennis has, become. We were in Australia earlier this year to attend the Australian Open finals.
Wait, who
Um,
won that? Is that the only one this year that didn't have like a Sinner Alcatraz final?
Uh, Center won, but he
Oh, okay.
beat Zverev.
Okay.
He
Okay.
but Center won, and Madison Keys won as well, which was fun to watch her win her first. But to kind of how we said, like, people are skiing all year long, no matter whether you're watching or not. Similarly, like, just for example, like the tennis tournament has a tour with all these smaller events throughout the
Yeah.
year. It's not just the big Grand Slams that are on ESPN. It's
Mm-hmm.
and they're in these fabulous places. They're in Monte Carlo and Rome and Madrid and Barcelona and Hamburg, and you know so you can go, like, I think next year coming up we're going to try and maybe swing by the men's tournament in Monte Carlo, which is in the
Which should be
spring,
so cool. Yeah.
um, because it coincides with Salone de Mobile in Milan, which is a big furniture fair.
Yeah.
And so, it finding that, like, whatever that is for you, for us, it's tennis. It could be gardening. It could be music. I mean, obviously music, like, we're in the new age of like traveling for Beyonce and
Oh,
Oasis
absolutely.
and Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
So, it certainly could be something like that. But I even thought about that in the United States. We go to the US Open every year,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a group. Brian, my husband, just would buy, like, kind of started with this group of people that wanted to go, and each year he would send it out. There are now people that don't even live in New York anymore that literally come in for the tournament
Yeah.
every year because they're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
on the text thread, and they're like, yeah, I want to go. So, get one for me too. And that sort of feels like there is something, like, to your point about like ritual and kind of connection and like kind of a depth there. Um,
I just
like
think
where
it's like
you,
so hard to schedule new things, but it's easy to say, "Oh, we did this once already. Let's do it again." Like it's it's like a snowball effect, right?
yeah,
And
so to speak.
yeah, no pun intended. Yeah, so I just when you mentioned that, I thought that was such a cool idea, and I thought that was like Yeah, it is what we're doing with our ski trip, and I think it's great for people to also ask themselves like, what is it that you're really interested in? Find that thing, because that interest is like out in the world, and it's probably happening in really interesting places. So, all right, Smith, I have a question for you.
Let's do it.
We're gonna do one of these next month as well, and we're gonna talk about Christmas markets. Would you like to join for that one as well? I feel like you have such a wealth of knowledge about Christmas markets. You took me to my first European Christmas market.
It was our first together. It was great.
That was your first
I
too?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, I didn't.
for
Okay.
European Christmas. Yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday. Like, um, and I know you referenced that trip earlier in the year, but
Yeah.
like, or earlier in the call, or in the video, um, and yeah, I remember just like being in the airport on Thanksgiving night and waking up, in kind of a winter
Oh my
wonderland in
gosh, yeah.
Vienna, and so yes, you know,
Having Gruner
unequivocally.
Veltliner for breakfast. It was
That's right.
fantastic.
I'd love to get together and talk more about that because I got a lot of opinions on that too. So
You also just did this last year. I know that you and
I
Brian
did.
had like
Yeah.
a wild traipse through Europe with the fam. It's going to be on October 11th, same time, same place.
Okay. Let's do it.
Great.
Wait, that's a Saturday
It
morning?
is.
Yeah.
It is.
Cool. Let's do it.
Yay. Okay. This was fantastic. I think, watch me like check the audio and like we're just talking like Charlie Brown teachers. No, I'm just kidding. I think everything worked. But this was a fantastic discussion. It really was. So thank you for being here. Can you, in closing, just tell the people where to find you if they want to connect?
Sure. Yes. I am on Instagram and my first and last name, Smith Gardner, which is also the name of my business. So I use those interchangeably. And that's where I do spend most of my time, and most engaged, on social media. And I'm a casual, like YouTube viewer, but not an active poster or creator there. But so Instagram is kind of my main gig.
My main gig. Yeah. Well, all right. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. This was fantastic. I can't wait to do it again. All
Yeah,
right.
let's and our ski trip do that again. So
Okay. For
we'll
for real
TBD.
though, for real though, we need
We
to
got to
book some
make
stuff,
we do, yeah.
and I'm gonna
And
try
we'll
to
and
get
we need to
some.
let like and do like a reveal of like where we actually end up. I'm sure it will not be a surprise, like a secret. We will let people know.
Are you becoming a content creator? Because that is so like, guys, you'll never guess. I mean, if that's the case, we have to go to Sierra Nevada because that's just like so incredibly. Okay,
Hmm.
we will.
Okay, wheels are turning. All right.